Welcome back. You're from Marion County.
I am from Marion County. I would love to introduce Vicki Roberts because I have known Vicki for 30 years, at least ever since you moved to Yellville, pretty much. And you have become, regardless of the fact that you're from Texas, you have become Marion County's historian because you have written things, you have researched. You could tell me things about my family that I don't know, and we both know that. And I really think that's wonderful, and just am so thrilled that somebody picked up the mantle that hadn't been picked up really yet. You. So I sure appreciate that. But the lady you're here to tell us about today is Avenel Pinkley. First of all, is she from Yellville? Was she from, or was she just buried there? Because she's buried at Layton Cemetery.
Yes.
Okay.
No, she was actually from Yellville.
Okay.
She was the daughter of George F. and Hattie Roberts Pinkley. And she was the niece of Miss Effie Thompson. I don't know if you remember her as a school teacher or not, Sandy.
Miss Effie, I remember the name, Miss Effie Thompson. Mama would remember
that
her.
Was her. That was her niece.
Yeah, we've got the name.
And when Avenel passed away in a nursing home over in Harrison, all she had was her Social Security, and Miss Effie buried her there in Yellville by her grandparents. So she was basically destitute. Because when the W.A.S.P, Women's Air Service Pilots, when they were organized, it was really not with the military. They were an individual organization that was primarily to release male pilots for combat. And there was 1,800 women went to Sweetwater, Texas when the call went out because they were already pilots.
Now, was she a pilot?
Yes.
Okay.
Nobody paid for their trip. They all paid their own way to get there, whether they went by car, train, hitchhiked, or flew. And there was 178 of them that 1,078 of them that graduated from Sweetwater. And Avenel graduated in the second class called the Singing Second, and she graduated in 1943. She received her wings in New York City and went back and was stationed at Dallas Love Field. Now these women flew everything that the U.S. military provided as far as airplanes.
So she just got into one and learned to fly it? Is that how that worked?
Well, no, she was a pilot.
I know, but they were different airplanes, and
yes,
she learned how to fly different ones.
They trained them how to fly everything that the War Department had, including the B-29 bomber.
Wow.
And their job was to ferry airplanes, supplies, equipment back and forth between here and overseas to Europe to the soldiers.
So they did go to combat zones. They didn't technically see combat, but they did fly in and out of combat zones.
Yes, they did. They were up there at the same time that our pilots were. They helped train the pilots. They pulled the targets that the pilots learned to shoot at. One lady said as long as you heard a rat-a-tat-tat, you were all right, but if you heard a ping, you kind of wondered.
Oh boy, yeah.
And when they first started, they were using live ammunition. And then later they started using lead that would kind of disintegrate if it hit the plane. So you were a little safer. But in the beginning, it was all live rounds.
Wow.
And these ladies got into airplanes that the pilots, the male pilots, wouldn't fly anymore. And they basically flew them to the junkyard. Or as one pilot called them, the toaster yard, you know, where they'd disassemble the metal and made toasters out of them. But we met, it was about 3 years ago that I got a call from the Arkansas Women's University at Denton, Texas. And they were putting together a repository of all these ladies that served as W.A.S.P. And they had found that Avenel here was buried in Layton Cemetery and wanted a picture of her grave. Well, I thought, I don't know who this lady is, but I'm going to find out. So I proceeded out with the camera to take pictures and send back to this gentleman. I went down to the funeral home and got a copy of her burial papers. That's when I found out she was destitute and where she died. And after that, I started to wonder, well, why didn't this woman have any recognition? You know, a Revolutionary soldier that's buried there in Layton Cemetery, the DAR and the SAR come down and they do a big ceremony for him. and they put out flags every year for veterans. But this lady had been laying there since 1977 with never a flag, never a wreath, never anything of recognition that she had done a thing for her country. Well, I started in on the VFW and the American Legion. And this past summer, the American Legion, Post 61 there in Yeovil, put a plaque on her tombstone that says W.A.S.P, Women's Air Force Service Pilots. Mm-hmm. And then on Veterans Day, they did the tribute to dedicate it to her. And I was so impressed that it was just absolutely phenomenal. There was over 30 people that attended, a lot of women pilots. There was a lot of people in uniform, you know, in the service and out of the service. We had a senator from Arkansas there. We had the judge. We had the mayor. We had, you know, they saluted her with taps. There was a wreath placed on her grave. And it was absolutely beautiful. I was just so proud of it, that this woman that's been dead since '77 finally received recognition for what she did for her
Does she
country.
have any family?
No.
None at all?
No.
Wow.
She was an only child.
Do you know what she did after the war was over? Did she have any connection?
I know she came back here, and I know that I was talking to Judy Dozier there in Yeovil, and she said, you know, I remember her. I was just a child. But she said, I thought her uniform was so fantastic and so neat. And then Janelle Kirkwood called me and said, you know, I remember her, but they haven't told me what she did or could do. But now you have to realize.
So
now,
she spent the rest of her life in Yeovil?
As far as I know. But she was only 64 when she died.
Yeah.
But it's just been an honor, you know, to track this woman down and to see what she's done. And I'm not through. I have
more information to gather.
Yes, I have every intention of finding out about her childhood, her early life. She never married, and I want to know.
Do you know how many W.A.S.P were in Arkansas? How many women? Is there a number?
There is one more living in Arkansas at this time.
Okay.
And that's the only two that I know of right around in Arkansas. See, they came from all over the United States, not just one place. Because these women wanted to fly, and fly they did.
It'd be interesting to find out her prehistory with flying and
how
why she got
became
interested in that.
a pilot to begin with, because she was a pilot.
Yes.
Before she became a W.A.S.P. It wasn't like she went in and said, I want to be trained as a pilot.
She was already a pilot. The first 1,000 that went were pilots.
Yeah. Well, for her to have been a pilot, she was born in 1913 when the war broke out in 1941. She was still a very young woman, and in the late 20s, when she would have basically come of age, women just didn't become pilots. So she's quite the renegade.
Well, yes, but look at Amelia Earhart.
Yes.
You know, that was in the 20s, and she was a pioneer of women in
aviation. And there's also there's a woman in I can't remember her name. Now I have to look up in my organization book, and she set airspeed records, and she was a pilot from Arkansas.
Yes.
So we have some very prominent women.
We had a lot of women pilots at this service, and I was just bowled over by the fact that they, you know, heard about it and came. But the Harrison Daily Times is the one that got it started as far as publicizing it. I went to a city hall meeting to talk to the mayor, and this reporter was there, and he put it in the Harrison Daily Times, and the AP network picked up on it.
That's good.
And it's been in USA Today. It's been in every newspaper in the state of Arkansas.
Well, it's got to make you feel proud
It does.
of the work that you've done.
It really does. It makes me really feel proud, and it makes me feel proud that we could honor her. And I'd like to do something like this every year. I don't know that we will, but I'd like to try it.
Well, if anybody here in Mountain Homes, and we spoke earlier, there's a lot of veterans in town.
Yes.
So if there's anyone in town who has any information about someone maybe here locally that was a W.A.S.P, would you like them to contact you?
Yeah.
I'd love it.
And so you got a website, right?
I have, we have a website, but it's maintained by a lady in Georgia, of all places.
Okay.
I have an email address, which is whiskers @yelville.net.
Okay.
That's easy.
And they can email me there, or they can call me on the phone at 870-449-6195.
Okay, because I guarantee there are a lot of people in Mountain Home who have information and have experiences and stuff
I would
like
love
this.
to talk to them.
Sure.
Yeah.
We did a military tribute to Marion County's men and women. And so far to date, we've collected over 250 pictures that are
that's
on
good.
display in the
Yeah.
Legion Hut. And we have over 398 military tombstones that don't match any of the
Oh,
pictures.
right. Wow.
So there's still
Work
a lot,
to do.
Lot of work to do.
lot of
and
work,
lots
to,
of work
do,
to do.
a lot. And it's a blessing. I love it. I know I was born in Texas, but I'm not from Texas.
She's from Marion County, Arkansas
Now,
now.
just don't get excited over me being from Texas, because I left there a long time ago, and I'm not going back. This is home, and the next time I move, it will be with the Undertaker.
Okay. Well, I believe that.
Yeah, if you have any information out there, please contact her. Vicki would be more than happy to receive that
And
information.
she knows her stuff.
And
Let
she
me
knows
tell
her
you,
stuff.
She
Sure
knows her
does.
stuff.
Thank you
Yeah.
so much for being
Well,
here.
you're welcome.
It was
Thank you for
delightful
having
to
me.
see you.
Absolutely.
I will-
If you get on a bigger scoop or another scoop, come back and tell us about it. Maybe we can
Well,
help you
all
out.
right.
Or just tell us what's going on with the Historical
Sure.
Society.
Yeah.
Well, it's growing. We need money.
Need money, and
Can
you
we
do,
beg?
You do teach genealogy classes,
Yes,
don't
I
you?
do. Can I beg?
You may certainly
can.
beg. Okay, please
We
do.
need software.
Uh-huh.
We need something called Photoshop
Okay.
in order to enhance these old photos that we're getting. In order to print the books, our software is worn out. It dates back to '97, so you know
Yes,
how
we need to
old
upgrade.
it is. So we need an upgrade. And this Photoshop is about $700. We need donations. And all they have to do is send them to me at 2363 MC 5032 Yelville, and we will put it towards a good cause and make sure that we can get these old photos enhanced and get them on Facebook
Yeah,
Okay.
before they wear out or something.
before they get lost.
And we're out of time.
Yeah.
Well,
I hope we get that. I'm sorry, but I hope we get that Photoshop program to you.
well, I'd like to.
Maybe
have
somebody's
one.
got an older version that we can
It
let
would
you
be great.
use or whatever. Maybe
It
they've
would be
upgraded.
great. We're going to get one regardless.
Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you again next time.
See you next week.